Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. Welcome. Welcome to Facebook Live. I hope everyone is doing well. We have almost made it to year 2022. It is the 1st of June, year 2022. Let me welcome everyone who is on the panel today. So today we have Patricia on, who is part of our group meditators, and we have Michelle as well, who is part of our group meditators. Good evening, Michelle and Patricia. And Francesca has joined us after being on hiatus for a couple of weeks. So good evening, Francesca. And as always, Ken is here. Good evening, Ken. So I was going to find a question. Let me pull up my questions. And what I heard was April is not feeling well, so wishing her lots of healing energy her way. And then Kelly is not going to be able to make it too. So this thing is very long, so I don't know how it's going to copy and paste into Zoom, but let me see. Okay, it did. So this person says a couple of years ago, I wrote about a friend of 10 plus years who often seemed too busy to get together. I felt sad and disappointed, but reconciled my feelings and let go. I then had a serious accident and ended up in the ER. After I got home, I needed a little help, groceries on occasion, a ride to the doctor's office, and a visit when I couldn't walk. I only asked for help 2 times, and my friend was too busy. Had to get her phone checked out, was planning on getting a massage, that kind of thing. I never asked for help again. I just accepted the loss of the long friendship that we had. A week ago, she wrote me a letter apologizing for not being there when I needed help and needed a friend, and said she misses me. I accept her apology, but honestly believe her apology is something she feels obligated to do because she professes to be a Christian. I'm thinking about sending her a card sometime in the next month and write something like, "Thank you. It was nice to hear from you. And I hope you and I hope you and uh, you and me, when I really needed her, I never let her down ever when she asked me for help. What would Eckhart recommend?" Is her question. So the card was going to be, "Thank you. It was nice to hear from you. And I hope you and your family are doing well. I'm conflicted because I would love to have a real relationship with her, but I have lost trust and don't want to repeat the sorrow I went through when she was not there for me when I really needed her. I never let her down ever when she asked me for help. What would ET recommend I do?" I think Caesar has joined. Good evening, Caesar. Caesar is a channel and a spiritual teacher. So I'm going to copy and paste this whole thing again, Caesar, because I don't think you would have gotten the
I've
initial
got it.
part.
I've got it. Yeah, I'm reading it right now.
Okay.
Thank you.
So did you want to get started, Caesar? And I'll go, since Eileen is not here, I'm going to go to the Facebook page and look,
Sure.
tag everyone. Okay.
Okay, I'm just reading this briefly here. I am conflicted because I would.
This is the beginning.
Okay.
I'm going
Okay.
to put the beginning.
Okay. A couple of years ago, I wrote about. Okay. So the second part is the beginning. I'm just going to go off feeling here. So
The second
sounds
part
like,
is the beginning. Thank you.
okay. Okay. So her question is, she almost feels betrayed. Am I correct in saying that? Or felt maybe betrayed? She never let her down, and then she felt let down. This is a friend we're speaking about. Okay. So I'm not sure exactly what Eckert would say or advise in this situation. However, we know that the best thing is to accept the isness of that situation, because by accepting it as it is, we know we can't change the past. We know we can't change anything about the past. We can only accept it, because anything else would be insane. And it calls for suffering um, through the resistance of not accepting something. An apology is nice to hear sometimes, but to me, that's ego stuff. When you feel that you're deserving of an apology, it's kind of like validation, like you did me wrong and I didn't deserve this. However, people will do what they do. And, one of the four agreements is to never take anything personal. And having said that, that allows the ego to come into play, and we can dwell on this for years and years and years and hold on to the resistance, let alone the whatever it is that caused this, the letdown of whatever fashion it may have been. um, the best advice I think would be, once you have accepted it, that changes the energy field of the situation in itself. And just like, sometimes when we apologize for somebody or to somebody, it's not so much for them as it is for us. If we feel that an apology to somebody is going to offer them peace, we've got it all wrong. Because what that apology does is it offers you peace, that you said, what you felt you had to say, being apologetic towards something that had happened, but without accepting it. Because once you accept it, you're saying, it's okay, I forgive you. That's part of the whole surrender, acceptance, forgiveness thing. Three faces of the same coin. So the forgiveness aspect of this whole situation is very important, and it comes along with the acceptance of it. So when you surrender to that situation, you forgive her or the friend for whatever it was, and you simply accept it. Now you have let it go. You've changed the dynamic of the energy field of that situation. It no longer creates this low vibe and energy between the two. Maybe it's something that you held on to for years, and every time you thought about it, there was maybe some type of disturbance within you. That's all energy, and that affects us greatly in everything that we say or do. So the forgiveness or the surrendering offers a higher vibration, because now you have accepted it as it is. Regardless, it's done, it's over. You don't, excuse me, you don't take anything personal. Now you've allowed peace to enter that situation. So the next time it comes up, you no longer have to feel a certain way about it. It won't have that negative energy pull to spark the pain body, because once it's accepted, you've kind of brought it to the light. And that's why we accept things. When they come up, it is for that reason, mainly that reason. Uh, it's stuffed down for years, and we think about it, or we see something that reminds us about it, and it causes the pain body to react. So now all of a sudden we have an emotion that's, say, suggesting, pain or sadness or anger, whatever it might be. And then we're supposed to sit with that and allow that to be, simply be. We allow it the space to be. Okay, I feel you, and I fully allow you to reside in me as it is. And that's saying, I accept it. So that's the situation coming up from being pushed down within you. Turning this off. Thank you. So when that situation arises from within, it's given you the opportunity to not suppress it, but to dissolve it in the light of consciousness. And that is done through acceptance. So again, accept, whatever happened, fully accept it. That doesn't mean to say I accept it, then walk out of the room and punch a door. Full acceptance means I am now grateful that this happened. And I would also suggest that whatever it is that happened is highly likely a deep lesson concealed within that situation. So, like we always say, and Eckert would tell you the same thing, is not why did I experience that, but what was this trying to teach me? And now it sounds like it may have been years. And so now it's up to you to one, accept it, and then maybe you're able to extract the valuable lesson that was offered within this situation. And through the acceptance and the forgiveness and the surrendering of the isness, um, a peace becomes evident within the whole situation. And again, it just changes the whole dynamics of the energy that this was, brewed out of and lingered for all these years, or for whatever passing time that was allotted, or, you know, been in between now and then. So, yeah, full acceptance for sure.
Beautiful. So, thank you so much, Caesar. That was incredible. So I agree that acceptance of that, if that is the reality, then that is what is. The one question I would ask Caesar is, in the person, in the rejection, bless you, God bless you. In the rejection, do you see that they're testing your abandonment? Isn't that true?
Through the situation that the other person was testing the abandonment.
Yeah, that lesson that's hiding behind it is abandonment, that this person is abandoning you. Now, can you actually come from non-reaction about the
Ooh,
abandonment?
whoa, deep, very deep. Yes, very well could be. Well, I actually more likely than not. Yeah, that's amazing that you pulled that out of there for sure. I don't know how much time has passed here, but yeah, I mean, that's kind of how the ego works on the other side of the fence too. Like, I'm going to teach you, but again, listen to the words there. I'm going to teach you. Now, that wasn't coming from her. That's coming from life itself, the universe
Yeah.
teaching you. So your job is to extract that, and um, amazing, Poonam. That, yeah, absolutely. The abandonment from the other side. Yes. Perfect.
Thank you. And normally, like in situations of this type where I'm expecting help from somebody, and I've gone through financial trouble, like I've talked about, like in 2012. So what I would do is I would make a list. I would say, okay, friend number one, I'm going to ask her. Friend number two, I'm going to ask them. My ex-husband, that's number three, right? If one, two don't accept, then I'll go to three. And I have the humility that I have no qualms about going to number three. So that's how you should deal with your present life situation, instead of applying an expectation on a friend and saying, this friend should be the one that should show up in my life to take me to the doctor, right? Because you don't know who are your, as Abraham Hicks would call it, she would call it the cooperative components, right? Who planetary intelligence is going to send in your life. And this is something that I have learned as a little child. My grandmother, which is my mother's mother, was never taken care of by her children, never taken care of by anybody, but a maid servant always was employed. And that maid servant, like, to her, when children, when the person is really really old and invalid to the point that you have to, like, even their bare necessities, like bathing them, everything, you have to do it, right? The maid servant did it, and that informed me that not always is it if you say and have an expectation that my son should come help me or my daughter should come help me, that's your mind telling you. But here is a soul that is ready to serve you, that has a soul contract with you, right, Caesar? So that's the and today I had posted something about our expectations and what is reality. That is the pain gap, right? That's where the pain lies. Here's reality, and this is the expectation, and that's the pain. So that caused the pain. Perfect. Thank you. Michelle, did you want to say something? You look like there may be something that came up for you.
Yeah, this is one that is not so easy for me to just say surrender and accept. It's definitely triggering something in me because I think when we're in relationship, we're looking for authenticity. And something there, when I reread it, there's something that it doesn't seem like from the other side, there's this authenticity. And for me, that's really important in a relationship. So she can accept what's happened, right? But she has a choice here of whether to continue in relationship with this person or to step back. So there is a part of me that has to honor, even that it may not be somewhere she wants to go. She may want to send her peace and love and an understanding and offer her that forgiveness for how she responded initially, but then maybe not reestablish a relationship. And that's okay too, because I think we can have safe boundaries for ourselves if we're not in that space yet. And that might, and she may in a year or two be she's processed all of that emotion surrounding it. Because I think that forgiveness or surrender, for me, that might take me a little while. Honestly, I can't say that it wouldn't, especially if I've been there for that person and I know that the karma, but there's still a bond. And it wasn't like she was saying, let's get together. It's in time of a real need. And it seemed like the other person, from what I read, was doing something that wasn't important, like taking care of an elderly grandmother or something. It was just to do what she wanted to do. I don't know if I would want an authentic relationship with someone like that. That would be, and this, I've been in situations similar to that. And when there's not an authentic relationship, that it's all superficial, I can be cordial and lovely with the person, but that doesn't mean I want to go into a deep relationship with that person anymore. So I think that's part of our growth too, to be able to discern who we step into a relationship with. Yeah. But yeah, this triggered something for me. So it wasn't as easy to say, go on and accept it. But yes, but for me.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Michelle, for being authentic yourself. Whatever arose for you, you spoke it. So that's what is needed in the moment. Yeah, I would say, like, if the person constantly does not show up for you, then you have to start distancing yourself from them, not reestablish. The one thing what I would say is, if the person is feeling like they are now making themselves available to us, right? Maybe they had a shift in consciousness. Maybe they were selfish at that point in time and said, I need to go for my massage, or I need to go. But after a few months or after a year, whatever the time has passed, now there's a shift in consciousness. So we could honor that shift in consciousness as well, right? And say, okay, maybe I'll start a relationship, but then wait and see if that person is that responsive. Because if they're not, again, responsive when you need them, then they're not going to be responsive, right?
Yeah, I tread carefully. I mean, my thing was make sure I feel safe in the relationship at that point in time, before I go there. And maybe that would have to wait until I'm ready. You know what I mean? Just because she's ready doesn't mean I would. Look, I'm already putting myself in her shoes, but I would be ready,
Perfect.
So
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to say something really quick too.
Sure.
So now I get the gist of the story, that it was a significant other, and that's great advice, Michelle. Who would want to carry on one of them type of serious relationships with somebody who just showed you who they were?
It's just a friend, Caesar.
Okay, well, okay, but, you know, and again, we just have to go back to understanding that there are two types of people, conscious and unconscious people. So once you understand the difference between the two, it's easy to just say, well, it was just unconscious of her to act that way. And there's no other reason for it, whether we call it selfish or, you know, rude, or the expectations come into play. You would expect somebody to be there for you as you are for them. But, you know, don't get mad when they don't. Yeah, but yeah.
Thank you, Caesar. Thank you for that insight. Thank you, Michelle. Ken, did you have something to say? Something arose?
Oh, yes, this is a loaded gun. Oh, yes.
Okay, I'm gonna go on mute.
Yes, boy, I really feel the couple of years ago, I wrote about a friend of 10 years who often seemed too busy to get together. Right from that being said, I feel like this person has a resentment. And I feel like everything that happened was for the person who was hurt. I really feel like, because right off the bat, she says, I felt sad and disappointed. I reconciled my feelings and let go. She didn't let go. She's carrying something. She had an expectation that this person should be helping her. And when she got let down again, those feelings all rose and she relived them. So it's something where I really feel, and then just the way everything panned out, she kind of projected her stuff on this other person. And I really feel like the universe is like saying, you really need to look at this. And at the very end, I accept her apology, but honestly believe her apology is something she feels obligated to do. That's all mind thinking. She didn't accept her apology at all. She just stayed in her head and then said she's obligated because she professes to be a Christian. Well, what does she profess she is? These are all labels. So it's something where, to me, this is how the universe works. Sometimes we project other things on other people, or we have these expectations, but sometimes we need to really, really look at ourselves and say, how am I twisting something around? So, and it's funny how I'm doing this, and this fits so well with something that I'm actually going through with my son. And it's something where I want to say, Poonam, things that you just wrote recently helped me through my stuff. And this is all interconnected. And I love what Caesar said, and I love what Michelle said, and I just love how this all works, because they're all attachments or pieces of the puzzle if I really want to untangle some deep, deep things within myself. It's amazing how this works. But so anyway, I just feel that she needs to look at herself a little more closely. So, thank you.
Incredible. Thank you so much, Ken. And that's what I thought when I saw the Christian label, that is a prejudice as well, that she's apologizing because that's just a narrative. Now we are adding on to what is the reality. Just accept it, right?
Absolutely. There's no acceptance going on here from both parties. I feel like, in a sense, they're actually mirroring each other.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Ken. Francesca, did you want to say something about this? Thank you.
Hi. What Caesar and Ken said, that's profound. They basically wrapped it all up in a nutshell, really. For me, literally, it's interesting how Ken talks about the interconnection, because this is something since my heart attack I've been tested. I call it, oh my God, I've been tested in the highest possible realms when it comes to expectations that I felt blindsided by it, because the last thing I didn't expect that I would be in hospital as long as I did, and that I would have to give my daughter to my sister. So that means, she was no longer living here, and I raised her a certain way, and this whole, protecting of her consciousness obsession that I have. And oh my God, like I could write probably a whole book on just this topic, and the lessons that are coming forth, because of course, I had expectations as a result of how I raised her here at home, and the environment that I created for her. And all of those came, all of those things came from the wisdom that I learned, within the last 8 years. And so, I've been carefully crafting everything. And then here I had to give her to my sister and, my family. And I had the same pain body. So I'm not judging them, just putting that out there. They have very heavy pain bodies, just like I did. And so I was worrying about everything, the transfer of energy, knowing that everything is energy, and judging. And, one of the biggest lessons I've learned for myself from this whole process is there's a huge difference between discernment and judgment. And judgment is very sneaky. And that word expectations, I actually call it the killer of all relationships. Literally, whether it's a man and woman relationship or, family relationship, whatever that relationship is, I often refer to it as the killer of relationships, because it's amazing how much our own egoic state of mind will create the narrative for the story that it's painting for us, and reinforcing that. And, when that pain body becomes triggered, and as we could see, that's what's happened here with this beautiful being, her pain, when we're ill, when we're going through any sort of illness, we're very, very vulnerable, and to be really honest for myself, and from the work I've done, I've noticed that the ego tries to take advantage of us during that time. That's my summary for the ego and what it does during that time. But it's not really that the ego is, out to get us or trying to take advantage. That's just my verbiage of it, because I don't have a better way to verbalize it at the moment. But basically what happens is during that time, anything extra that we may have missed during our healing journey that we need to heal comes up, and so I call them the tests, right? They come up, and in a way sometimes I feel like, oh my God, this is like just a hard test, because if we had anything from our neediness to anything that was hidden, that's the time that it comes up, because we're the most vulnerable, and the ego mind will create whatever story it needs to create, drawing on whatever pain body we have, that underlying pain body that we need to heal. It will create those situations to bring it to the surface. And the key is for us to look at what's coming up and healing it, rather than, unfortunately, in this case, judging the other person from that place of expectation. Like Ken said, this is somebody who needs to look at themselves a bit more deeply. Like Eckhart would say, go deeper, right? You haven't gone deep enough, right? Because there's so much pain body that I can hear, the prejudice, the judgment, the expectation. These are all things that, trust, she mentioned trust. That goes all the way back to childhood. So whatever is happening to her right now has not very little to do with this recent relationship that she's had. Because going back to childhood, the abandonment issues, like you mentioned, Poonam, right? There's abandonment, issues of trust, and there's other pain bodies that this is bringing light to, that she needs to heal. So, I made some little just notes, one word. So like, I guess both Caesar and Ken and Michelle, I think even Poonam touched on it, right? Acceptance is the key, right? Acceptance and asking the right questions is so important. Like, what is this experience here to teach me, rather than judge the other person and blame them, because what you're doing when you do that is what the ego, what we don't see is we're unconsciously feeding the entities of our own pain body programs. We're reinforcing them when we look at it through the eyes of judgment and expectations and all those other things that we would normally default to if we didn't train ourselves to have the right mind, the right view, and all of those beautiful things, right, that they talk about in the Eightfold Path. So yes, acceptance is key. And I think Ken was the one that mentioned it, even though she shared that she's forgiven this person. I don't think she has as well. There is still resentment as well. So again, all of these things that are coming up goes back to childhood. Like it's so clear, it's like there's childhood unhealed trauma there that needs to be addressed. And it has very little to do with her friend and the role of friend played. If anything, if she goes through this process really well, she would be thanking her friend for showing it. And believe me, I do this all the time. I would burst out into uncontrollable laughter and be like, thank you, thank you, darkness. I'd be like, kissing the darkness. I'd be like, thank you so much, because that's how we learn, right? Yes. So yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Beautiful.
Very good. Beautiful.
Incredible. Thank you so much, Francesca. I like the fact that you touched upon that there is no trust in herself. Like the depth of connection with her inner being is not there. Because as Eckhart says, we watched this talk called The Source of All Trust. And Eckhart says the source of all trust is that alignment with inner beingness, right? You cannot say he betrayed me or she betrayed me, or that's just our judgment. We are not looking
Absolutely.
at reality as it is. So as Byron Katie would use, Byron Katie uses turnarounds to bring you to your reality. She didn't reject her. This person rejected themselves.
Yes.
I rejected me because I'm in your business thinking that you rejected me.
Absolutely. And that's a
Right.
good point to make, Poonam. Because I call that the sneaky one, that sneaks in there when we compromise our own self-care, our own building of trust. And one of the things I normally teach is, that came from the realization of having, from my own journey and years and years of practice and going into that, all of that is, at the end of the day, all the egoic state of mind to me, like, and I laugh about it now, because all I could see that our egoic state of mind, wants at the end of the day is, and this is the Kali energy, right, is to really feel that we're doing this work genuinely, like we really care, you know what I mean? So that's why all the tests come up, and it's around trust. And at the end of the day, all it wants to know is that it can trust us, because it knows itself more than we do. It's always light years ahead of us. It knows because it's creating these realities within us, these programs, and it's the master of these programs and running them and knowing, 100 steps ahead of us what to ignite first. And that's why on the Tibetan Tenka, the one behind me, and you could pull it up online, you'll see the monkey is way ahead of the elephant, right? And it looks like the monkey is, pulling the elephant, because it does in the beginning of the journey. Right. And it comes down to that element of trust. So there's a lot of, tests. I call them tests, because at the end of the day, I feel like literally, as simple as it sounds and as simple as it feels, it's still amazing how much work it takes to get there. all the ego wants to know is that it can trust us. I don't know, that's what came out of it for me anyways, was building that relationship of trust. So I, consistently, even when I fall down and I'm having the dark nights, I sit there, I'm like, yeah, okay, this is happening. And I go with it. And then, because, like and they this, equanimity, they did, we describe this as the clouds. I think I saw a post about that today, I think, about the clouds, the passing clouds. We refer to the ego mind as the passing clouds, and the sky as pure awareness. It's there, it's always there. And the ego mind, and like these thoughts that we have, these feelings, they're just the passing clouds, right? So yeah, you said that really, really well. Thank you.
Thank you. Another Byron Katie quote that even Eckhart Tolle quotes is, trust people to do what they do. He's said that quite a few times. Trust people to do what they do. Michelle said lesson is self-reliance and building resiliency. Thank you, Michelle, for that. Thank you, Francesca.
Thank you. I've got to go read the chat. I can't do both. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Patricia, did you want to say something about this? How do you feel now that you've listened to everyone's responses? And
Well, you stole my responses.
I
Everything
did.
I was coming up with and coming up for me, there you go. The next person was saying just that. I'm like, okay, I just let all of you answer and just sit here and watch and listen. I just want to send a lot of blessings to that person that asked the question, because as we all noticed, there is still a lot of judgment and a lot of ego in it. So the fact that the person is actually going on that journey of self-inquiry and asking questions, that is incredible, because it is the beginning to actually, being in touch with even if it's in the beginning, it sounds like it's all ego talking to ego and, blah, blah, but it's starting. It's a starting point, and especially asking that question, on the panel and letting us talk about it. We are helping and reveal, the pointers and the acceptance, the surrender. It's all bringing the energy level up, but really sitting with it. And we all dealt with this discomfort of, that soul nudging. It's like, I know this is not right. I'm feeling something, but then do I go with the ego response and reacting, or actually sitting back and looking into it? And actually, we talked about Thich Nhat Hanh before, who would say, I'm home, I'll take care of you, whatever feeling has come up. And Eckhart Tolle, in his book Stillness Speaks, said, ultimately, there is no other. So yes, I would thank the other friend, even in my head, and be grateful. It doesn't have to be done actually outside, but just inside, to keep bringing that feeling, because this is something, the questionnaire needs to, obviously the universe is presenting that to be looked at. And also the book that we had in our book club too, The Untethered Soul, and all the different ways of seeing at it and releasing that stuck, the heart that is closed off and not seeing what happened. And that would be very helpful as well. And as far as the trust, for me, the biggest difference made that, even like I use it every day, when expectations still come up. I want things to be certain way. It's just like the way we react. You obviously want certain ways. But then if it doesn't happen, I just say to myself, I trust the universe that it was supposed to be happen exactly, and it happened. I'm too small to know what's good for me. This is the lesson I need to learn. This is the situation that needed to happen. And the entire universe got together to make this exact moment the way it is. Who am I, right, to question it? Just breathe. Just breathe and be in the moment. And what opened my heart is being thankful to every person, for teaching something about me and letting them be who they are. And Byron Katie also said, it's like, if you suffer, whose business are you in? You're not in yours. Like, you either in somebody else's business or in the God's business, worrying about weather and different condition stuff. So look into that. Just go back to yourself. Eckhart Tolle, everybody's saying, go back to yourself. So this is just gratefulness for and being, having that lesson and being alive to listen. And yeah, I wish also that April was here and talked about soul's contract, because that might also be something to talk about here. That friend is here, for that exactly experience, and finding that moment and knowing that. And like Michelle said, it doesn't mean that we have to forgive or even get back into having a relationship with the friend. Just accepting it, and from that moment of acceptance, the right action will come up. If it comes up to actually see that person, okay, let's continue, let's start fresh. I really missed you, could be. Or if that friend will go away and you move on. But the first minute is to just be present and just breathe. Few breaths, just practicing breathing, that will anchor you in the present moment. It's almost miraculous. Magic things happen when we practice this simple thing. It's what you said, the grace comes in. All we need to be is just open to it. And I really love that question, because we all have expectations, and being disappointed and feel betrayed. It's such a human part of what we experience, the whole entire menagerie of emotions. And it's just, we're not it. We're not the emotions, we're not the body, we're not the feeling. Just disassociate yourself. But it takes practice. But the breathing is important. Thank you.
Phenomenal. Thank you so much,
Yep.
Patricia.
It was beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So the next question, Caesar, is, if presence is so simple, why does Eckhart Tolle have all these videos, courses, retreats? What am I missing? I promise I'm not judging him, just making sure that I'm not missing something else I should be doing or not doing. You
Yeah,
understand?
I mean, beautiful question. Yeah, presence is it's simple, but at the same time, it's a practice. When you're not focused on what's right before you, it's so easy to get lost in the moment outside of your here and now. So I think the reason for the persistence and the nonstop, retreats and lessons and courses that he offers through the videos and everything else he does is I love how Eckhart always gives us every example of all the many different life situations. It's like, I can't think of a single one that he hasn't touched on that, related to something along my journey, almost in every instance. And it's just always the reminders and the persistence to remind us how important presence really is. Because throughout the days, um, even the most well-trained are still not there 100%. But I mean, that would just mean that you're in this, like, Eckhart talks about that pure bliss, almost like another dimension, nonstop. And when he comes back to, outside of the present moment, that's a rare thing probably for Tolle. For us, it's the opposite. So it's important to always honor and be right where you're at, fully, totally, 100%. He always says, when you miss the now, you miss life itself. And that's so true. Yeah, anytime you have, an uneasy feeling come up, chances are really high that it was a past thought or a future thought that brought that uneasy feeling about. It's so difficult. I don't even know if it's possible to really feel other than grateful when you're really submerged in the present moment. That gratitude is just like for all of life, and for constantly saying this moment is perfect and all that it offers, and whatever this moment contains, I am grateful. That's what I feel when I am fully present. It's hard to see anything outside of, almost like bliss and peace and joy and love. It's all right there in the present moment. And it's actually, an illusion outside of the present moment to feel that. It's like, to me, it's superficial when you're thinking about the future and you have these, amazing, good feeling thoughts. Well, I'm not saying it's wrong or it doesn't, truly happen. But to me, the reality of these emotions, the gratitude, the love, the high vibrational frequencies that just make us tingle, come within the present moment, whether we realize we are there or not. It's like, when people have a lot on their mind and they're doing something, then they just kind of forget about everything else. This is because they're so immersed in the present moment. And I think that's why Tolle always goes back to that. I mean, he is the now master, and it's the essence of every great spiritual teacher, is presence. Presence. That's the core of every great spiritual teaching that ever was, is now. Tolle just put his mark on it, like nobody else. And he just pounds that through. And the little things that are, attached to that, the core of his teachings and every great teacher's, the acceptance, the surrender, all that good stuff. It sounds simple, and it really is, but it becomes second nature through practice. It's easy to get, knocked off your square, and then the mind, jumps into the future and, what am I going to do if this happens, or I'm going to do that. And, it's more so we were conditioned outside of the present moment than within it. And so once we realize this, it's always about coming back to zero, the present moment. And that's where we find our peace. I know when something throws me off a little bit during the course of a day, as Patricia was just saying, it's taking a couple deep breaths and getting back into this moment and not letting my mind take me somewhere outside of this moment. And then all of a sudden I feel just this joy. I could go from being confused or very concerned / worried in a split second. And then within another 10 seconds, be back to this gratitude and excitement, just with a couple breaths and remembering I'm here now. That's got nothing to do with my here and now. And, through practice, it becomes more of a natural thing. And it's, since that, life has become super enjoyable. And just know that, whenever you're outside of yourself and you feel a certain way, when the emotions start poking at you, or you get confused or worried about something, return to the present moment And there you will find the peace. There you will find the answer. Always know that the answers are there for you at any given moment. I like a mantra that Wayne Dyer says about, how that the answers, God answers everything and will provide the answers at the exact time they're needed. And you have to trust that they're on their way. They're there for you and not, sooner or later than they're supposed to be. They come at the exact time they're needed, and we have to trust this. And that happens in the present moment always. And it's just about the vibrational frequency in the present moment is elevated no matter what. And totally talks a lot about problems being illusions. And when I try to explain this to people, they kind of scratch their head. But once they, kind of dive into the whole presence thing and start dwelling there for periods of time, they always call me back and say, you're right, that the problems are mind things, that don't exist in the present moment. And it is so very true. But yeah, I think he just wants everybody to feel that sense of joy and gratitude and peace that he does. And he's also said, many times too, that once you get this, it's hard. And I'm sure that's why we're all here. It's hard to not want that for everybody else along the way. We're here, one flame lights the other, you become the same flame. It takes nothing from the one fire. Sharing your light with another takes nothing away. It doesn't lessen your light any less by giving that away, by shedding light on somebody else's path. And in turn, we get that same, I learned so much from each one of the panel members, and often from even the members asking the questions. It's, I get off this segment of this live every time, and I just try to take things in for several minutes. And I find myself just overwhelmed with gratitude to have been a part of such an amazing moment. And that's when the lessons start opening up to me. And it was like, what did I hear or learn in there that was really, meant for me? Because a lot of the things spoke, like Patricia, that was just so loving and compassionate. And you put a nice, big exclamation point on. Everybody had such amazing answers and beautiful, like a melting pot of just greatness and light. And then you came along with that. The growth has been immense, and I'm so grateful to witness that within you. But back to ET, just he wants that for everybody, and the way you get there is through the power of presence.
Incredible. Thank you so much, Caesar. And while we were having the previous discussion, Lakshmi said, ultimately, you forgive yourself since there is no other, for the previous discussion, which was, I thought, beautiful. So I wanted to state it over here. So you were saying that it is about practice. And what I feel is, if we had not had that fireworks kind of moment, just like Eckhart Tolle had, or Sadhguru had, or Byron Katie had, right? If we have not had the fireworks kind of moment, then we need that renewal. And for some people, just a video is sufficient. Some people need the 4-day retreat to quieten their mind, right? They may not quieten their mind just a 30-minute video or something. Their mind may not quieten, right? So they're different people at different stages of their vibrational frequency, and they'll require a different protocol. And that's what Sadhguru says, right? Even about his inner engineering program, he says, you have to come in, you have to come to the ashram and be there so that I can find out what you need. You cannot just say, well, I'll be remote. I mean, he's trying to do it remotely, like virtual experience as well of the inner engineering program. But I'm positive it's entirely different than seeing the person there and knowing what to apply for them, right? Does this person need more yoga? Does this person need more breath work? Does this person need this type of maybe diet? What do they need? When you're in person, they can see it, right? So that's why there's so many different formats. Some people cannot, and then it's financially as well. Some people cannot afford the retreat, so they may be able to buy the video and at least get the teaching, like a portion of that teaching. It's not like totally unavailable to them. And how much does he have on YouTube for free? How much is he selflessly giving of himself, right? So.
Yep, and if I can just sneak one more thing in,
Mhm.
it's something that I do regularly when I recommend reading Eckert's work. In that, you know, he often talks about why he mentions in the Power of Now early that once your conditioned mind or your egoic mind, it becomes aware that the material that it's receiving is a means to death of the egoic mind, it's either going to put up a fight or try to confuse you and run from the book. Yeah, I started reading it, but it's kind of boring, or yeah, it's too
Oh, yeah.
confusing for me.
Yeah.
And that seems to be so true for so many people. And I just tell them to push through, read it one time. Don't even try to understand it with all the, you know, the pauses and the take the break, the breathing. Just push through it one time first, and your soul will pick up exactly what is needed when it needs it. Trust the process. And just like, you know, if you're available to go to the ashram, you know, the inner engineering Sadhguru, or a retreat from Eckhart, or not, or you're just able to listen to an audio or watch a 10-minute video, you're getting everything that your soul is supposed to get at the exact time you need it. And that's why it's important to pay attention to the little impulses of life. When you feel the need to click on a video when you're laying in bed, react quickly, lean into it. Somebody mentioned, I forget who it was, that your mind will talk you out of something within 7 seconds if you don't lean into it right away. But it's important. You have to be present to get these little impulses from life, to understand them and receive them as well, right? The art of allowing, receiving, stuff like that. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Caesar, for that additional pointer. Grateful for it. Michelle, did you want to say something about this? Why retreats and why videos?
As I read the question again, right? If presence is so simple, okay, so it's simple because all you have to do is be in the present moment, but it's not easy because we've been conditioned since childbirth in the womb, listening to our parents and listening to the voices all around us, right? And so since infancy, we're like a sponge. I mean, even when Lakshmi posted those little girls that were hugging each other, that were like not talking in their own language. I mean, that was just,
Absolutely.
you know, and we don't know what they're saying, but they absolutely knew what they were saying to each other, right? And so just, I mean, we just absorb and absorb and absorb, and the good and the not so good, and that path of uncovering and shedding all of that conditioning, you know, so we can really savor that fragrance of presence, right? That joy, that peace, that freedom, that lightness. I mean, God, I want to breathe that every single moment of every single day. And then the thoughts come in, and then you get lost in the thoughts, and you say, oh, wait, I'm just got lost in my thoughts. I need to bring myself back. And then that energy builds in. So yes, it's simple, but it's not easy because of how we've just been conditioned in this world to live, right? And then, you know, there's a part of us that is just instinctual, right? That flight or fight, you know, there's a part of us that has that because we, you know, we're meant to survive, and, you know, don't want to be eaten by the lion and all those physical threats that, you know, we're going to respond to from a physical standpoint. And then you add in the pain body and the ego, and then you have the whole emotional component, you know, and that causes all those stress hormones. So I think we go into these conditioned responses without us even realizing we're doing it. And it's a huge weight of gravity that's pulling us down, you know? I mean, there's the physics of the gravity, but then there's that emotional gravity, right? That's just pulling us down and pulling us down. And to uncover all of that takes practice, and so many different, and it takes dedicated practice. So that's why all the videos and all the courses and all the retreats and the yoga and the meditation and the qigong and all the different methods of getting to where we resonates with us, right? Because we're humans with our own individual likes, dislikes, and dispositions. And so pick one that feels good to you and try, and just keep coming back. I mean, for me, I it's nature, and it's listening to different podcasts, different, being part of a group, being part of a satsang, being part of it, and even still, there's going to be moments that are going to pull me away. And then I have to okay, breathe. Yeah. Okay. I'm feeling this, and it's yucky and it's muddy, and the mud is right there. The mud is there. I'm not going to say the mud isn't there, because the mud is there. And then I'm going to okay, this too shall pass. This is part of the process. This is part of, tomorrow's another day. You just know that it's kind of like a revolving door until the episodes are less strong, right? And the pull is less, and it loosens, and you get more glimpses of that joy and that freedom and that lightness, and but in every stucky moment in that mud, there's lessons to learn. And sometimes it's easier to look in the mirror and what is this lesson for me? And sometimes I just say, I don't see it. I need help right now. Right now I just can't see it. And maybe tomorrow I will, but right now I can, and that's where I'm at, And so it's simple, because all you have to do is really be in the present moment, but it's not easy. There's a lot of layers that need to be uncovered and unmasked and figured out, I'm not in such a light space today, Poonam.
All is well, all is well, all is well.
All is well.
This too shall pass.
Of course. Yeah.
All is well. Tomorrow is going to be okay.
Yeah.
Everything is going to be perfectly aligned.
Yes.
Everything is going to be fine.
Yes.
Incredible. Thank you so much, Michelle. Even I was thinking of the same thing, as just saying presence is simple. It's not that simple, because even the collective consciousness of a city, of a country, like Texas just went through a mass shooting. So just look at the collective consciousness that we are participating in. Like Patricia says, right? You're driving in a sea of vehicles. As Abraham Hicks says, right? You don't know if there's a serial killer right next to you driving, right? What consciousness are you going through while you're driving? You don't know who all these people are, and we are participating in the whole thing. So like you say, the energy will get pulled down, the gravitational pull will be there. And so the renewal is needed, right? The practice is needed. Another retreat is needed, or another, we had our workshop. Even then, I purchased The Light of the World, and I was listening to Eckhart and Kim all throughout it's not enough that 5-10 hours we were in presence, right? The whole weekend. I was also doing that along with my meditation. So anything and everything that we can, to make it like completely soaked in sacredness, so that we could have a really good workshop. So thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you for
that whole thing with Texas also throws everybody for a loop. But I started kind of reading a little bit, and it's just the heaviness of those families, right? Palpable, feeling that you're outside of the school and the authorities are telling you can't come in, and then every ounce of you is there to protect your child, and you feel, I just can't imagine, so that's in the collective for sure.
Mm-hmm. the collective pain body. Ken, did you want to say something about this? Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Wow, absolutely amazing. What a great topic, presence. And I had many aha moments tonight. And a big one is being in presence, and how the last topic we were talking about, how everyone spoke, and more I'm feeling safer. I'm feeling connected. I'm feeling I'm in presence. And then as what I'm feeling or what I'm putting out, I'm getting back from each and every one of you. And when Caesar spoke, I felt like I was inside of Caesar, because it was like he was like everything he was saying, I'm like thinking about it, coming through. And it's just something where to be in alignment to this energy field just ignites all those dormant areas that are yearning to be seen, heard, known, and realizing that when I don't fully understand something, just accept it, embrace it. And last week, I felt like I was in a tug of war all week. And I'm like pulling, it was like pulling taffy. It was like I was stuck in the mud. And just the way people are expressing things, it's like so, I feel like so much that I'm part of. I'm being seen, I'm being heard, I'm being understood, acceptance. It's just so incredible to experience and know I am exactly where I need to be, and to fully embrace that. And then to hear others, it's like, and to make the shifts, it's almost like the letting go process. And I'm realizing that I've surrendered self-reliance. More and more, I'm not thinking, but I'm in awareness, and I'm hearing you in awareness. I'm not hearing you in my thinking mind, thinking, did you say that? No. I don't have to think. All I have to do is listen. It's almost like I have new ears. I have a new way of being. And that there, it's almost like the dots are coming together on this newness that's being, it's like a rebirthing. I'm being born and realizing that this is who I am. And I'm listening to you. So it's something where it helps me to understand being in alignment with others, and realizing that how much I need you, but not in a neediness way, not in an egotistical way. It's in a loving way. And I was so afraid to be able to show this side, because I can realize that my unconscious parts of me were blocking me, thinking I wasn't enough, thinking I'm not good enough, low self-esteem, whatever it may be. So this is helping me to realize, just be around others that understand, even if I don't understand. And eventually it will rub off. And how many times there have been some times where I didn't want to come to a meeting, I didn't want to come to the group. I'm like, yes, you do. So realizing who's saying that. So more and more realizing I'm putting the pieces together, where no, just keep pushing. When you don't want to do something, push that much harder. That's the test. So it's just amazing how the dots do come together. And 99% of the time, when I think I know what I'm talking about, I don't. I don't know what I'm talking about. But when I surrender and let go, the downloading of information comes through and I'm like, so I just got to keep at it. I just got to keep exercising that muscle and keep coming back. It's maintenance. I need to sleep. I need to eat. I need this practice. I need to meditate. I need to take care of that part of myself in ways that I didn't understand before. So I just want to thank all of you with all my heart. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you, Ken. So Cecile asked a question, is there a possibility that you know that you are rigged to no presence, even in a highly unconscious environment, because presence is not coming for you? Caesar, you want to quickly answer the question before I go to Francesca?
Yeah, I'm not sure what she means by because presence is not coming for you. Presence is always available to you. You just have to make the conscious choice or effort to fully and delve in it, I guess. You're a rigged, presence. We're born with that knowledge of being present. If you look at a newborn for quite some time, you see him just kind of looking around. There's no judgments or labels or thoughts about anything. They're just looking at everything and they're just being and just allowing things to be as they are. And there's like little to no thought process until, of course, we start conditioning them to think. So presence is always available to you. I think that just gets masked over through the conditioning of our lives, over a period of time. But presence is always available to you. I don't understand them because presence. Yeah, even in a highly unconscious environment, because presence is not coming for you or to you. I don't quite understand it, but it's always available to you. And of course, it's always available to you here and now, and only here and now.
I think what she means is like, are certain people more geared towards knowing of their getting into self-awareness, which I do think that's why we are here, right? Our siblings are not here or our parents are not here. It's like we are more geared towards, so if any of you and everybody on this Facebook group is that way, if something spiritual, you were drawn to it, then you are rigged to know presence already. This birth is where you were meant to crack open.
Sure. And I think along the way, I mean, this is such a huge topic in spirituality now. It seems to be that main, talking point. The main aspect of spirituality is presence. It's the number one thing I feel that's being, so widely available to us on many different levels. Because once you become, aware, like what Ken was just saying, about the awareness. Yeah, I'm thinking of the observer. Who's hearing this? Who's seeing this? Who's thinking about this? We are just the observer of all this. We are the awareness of this, and to be in the awareness of presence. And as, like you said, people are rigged for it. Something always leads us to. I guess I can say it's the grid filling in. Leads us to this moment, to the eye-opening experience of, this spirituality that we're learning and this journey that everybody is on. Some are just starting, some are not even aware that they're on the journey, but deep within everybody is this questioning and this yearning for what is this about? What is this for? And it all starts with presence, I believe. Some people are rigged, like she said, a little more than others, but within everybody is that continuity of, the awareness of presence. And it is through groups like this and people like all of you, and even the members who just have a little discussion about it on occasion or just mention it. And that might spark somebody else's interest to look a little further, and then usually something else will present itself about the topic or presence, and then you fully start to engage in it and scratching your head and then looking a little deeper. And of course, once you start seeking, you'll get all the right information at the exact time you need it.
Hmm.
Beautiful.
Can
Thank
I
you.
add?
Mhm.
Could it be also that karmically we're like, as Eckhart says, the evolution of human consciousness? So some souls have come back to be a channel of that presence power,
Absolutely. Yeah.
right? To
that'd be-
anchor that more.
Mhm.
Because I like the frequency holder, when I read that whole chapter, that always stays with me. Like, some people are just here to do and do and do and create and build, and right, they have those creative energies on the human form. That's not me, that's not who I am. Like, that's not where I feel I need to be or what resonates with me even. I'm more introverted and kind of like just calm, and like I don't need to be kind of in that that circle of like you're always constantly into the next project and into the next project. That for me is exhausting. But people have that energy, so maybe it's just karmically where your soul is meant to be, right?
Mhm.
Mhm.
Thank you so much, Michelle, for that pointer. Francesca, did you want to answer both questions? And we'll go that way with Patricia.
Sure.
Thank you.
Presence. From my own personal experience, I don't believe it's easy. And I think Caesar talked about this at first. It comes with practice. True presence requires deep, deep practice. I know for myself, from my own experience of being and like tasting real presence, I had to train my mind in a way, because I discovered my mind was trapped in the psychological time of past and future. And that's the way I operated, future in relation to my teachings and all of that stuff. And believe me, that's a giant, and then the past of things that, became triggered that I hadn't dealt with, like expectations around the raising of my daughter and all these other things that kept coming up. So from my experience, and having tasted that presence, I believe it comes through continuous practice. And and I don't mean like, okay, I'm going to practice presence today and then tomorrow, I'm going to go meditate and do something else. Oh, no. I mean, like, there's a sticky note, you probably can't see it on my wall there, the little orange tiny note. It says watch the thinker. Okay, and it says focus on the now. There is one in the other direction stuck on my fridge. There is one in my bathroom mirror. That's how much practice it's continuous practice over and over again throughout my day. And then once I kind of understood, okay, I got the feel for what this real presence is and so forth. Integrating it like into my day-to-day life, not just walking back and forth in my apartment, but going outside. So now it's bigger, right? And experiencing life. And there's all these collective energies, when I go to the grocery store, or when I'm taking my daughter out and we're going for walks, practicing it when we're going for walks, and she's my teacher in that regards, because I needed one when I started practicing, really, really embodying that energy. I needed a teacher, and she was the perfect teacher. So thank God, we would do things like, she'd be like, look around, Mama, what do you see? And when I'm not present, she would tell me, she's like, Mama, you're not being present. And I'm like, oh, shit, pardon me. How do you know? And I would giggle, right? She's like, well, you're walking too fast, for starters. Can you hear the birds? You have to smell the roses. And she would say things like that, right? So I'm like, okay, you're going to be my teacher of presence, right? So that I can practice it in the outside world, even as I'm walking, you know, that breath, remembering to breathe and not be in the you know, the chattering of my mind. And it's a lot of chattering right now because, you know, I'm dealing with health related things that I'm learning about myself as in that regards, as I move through the process. And every time I come into a new realization from learning the different, you know, courses that they're teaching in regards to the heart and the brain. And, you know, I have this, oh my God, you know, my brain is my most important asset. You know, I can't, you know, and then a whole bunch of stuff come up, right? And so how do you become present when we're dealing with like all of this, you know, the collective energy and so forth? And the only way I've discovered that is through practice and surrender. Oh my God, you know, like the passing clouds, as you know, the thoughts come up, you know, when I went into, I call it the dark nights of the soul, because as Caesar, I think, mentioned it, that, you know, and it's true in Buddhism, they say the ego will test you to the death. Literally it does, because I found as I started to, that's why I had that these last 2 weeks. I know, I'm aware it's why I had these last 2 weeks of what I call hell. It's because, you know, I'm piercing that veil, and oh my God, am I being tested, right? And everything that's coming up, I'm aware it's a test. I'm like, okay, I give up. I don't care if I fail the test anymore. I don't care if it's a test. It like I was tested so deeply, it got to the point where I couldn't even read anything spiritual. I didn't meditate for like 2 days, and that really bothers me. Normally, you know, I'd be like, oh my God, I miss meditating, like, oh, and then the old ego mind would normally, thank God it didn't do that this time, would say stuff like, oh, you're falling behind, and all of these other, you know, narratives around me not meditating. And this time I was like, okay, you know, and I kind of just went surrender, okay, and I was just flowing with whatever was coming up. I just kept leaning into it and be okay, because at the end of the day, I kept remembering, maybe one day I'll get the opportunity to share it, my conversation with God, and, you know, the realization that we're consciousness. I'm not this body. I'm not this mind. You know, yes, this body is the sacred vessel. You know, I call it the gift that I receive so that I can experience and express myself in this human form, right? But at the end of the day, what attaches me to this body is my mind, right? What makes me think that I'm separate from anything, really? It's my mind. And it's amazing how far it would go to justify. I call it stories, like all of these stories and narratives that it comes up with. But basically it's pulling, I call it justification, it's data from that subconscious pain body, you know, that we became programmed with since we were inside of the womb, right? And so, yeah, in my experience, presence requires daily consistent practice. And again, as soon as you know, when you're practicing, I found for myself, you know, after I tasted it, if I went on Facebook and I started reading stuff on Facebook, it's gone. You know, yeah, bye-bye. It was that easy to lose that connection. So that's the other thing. It's like, so I don't know, I find like, yeah, when I try to tap in outside of myself before, you know, I discovered the surrender piece and just going with the flow of everything and just letting go of just my mind altogether, it felt like I was going crazy. But that's what happens, right? In the process of I guess, trying to fully embody that state, not just in my apartment where it's empty and there isn't a lot of, you know, collective energy around or anything like that. And it's easier to practice, but outside, when I'm walking outside and I'm you know, with people, conversing with people and doing all these different things, it's a whole new level, right? And so, practice is what comes to mind. And recently, just literally recently, the other day, this is something I learned a few years ago, when, remember earlier I mentioned that my discovery was all the ego wants is to know that it can trust you. That's why on the seventh veil, on the Tibetan Tenka, the monkey actually sits down behind the elephant and the monk. But believe me, you can be stuck at that veil for years, for a long time, and you'll be going back and forth, right? And in relation to, I guess I'm not supposed to share this as yet because I'm still literally coming into that that wisdom of it. But basically, you know, in my practice of presence and the egoic state of mind, wanting to know, you know, that it can trust me, and that I respect it, like I respect it to the point, the humility, you know, where it sits down behind the elephant. I remember the first time years ago, and that's how long I've been sitting there, years ago, when I experienced that, that first, I don't know what the right word is to use, when that happened, you know, I bawled my eyes out. I couldn't stop crying. I was physically shaking because for the first time, I was able to feel like, oh my God, you know, okay, no ego, don't go. So I went from like, yeah, you know, working on all of these things to dissolve or to become one, to become whole. And then I got to that point and I was like, no, don't go, just stay, you know, I'm gonna miss you. I love you so much. You taught me so much. I thank you so much for these lessons. And I was bawling my eyes out. I couldn't stop crying. I was crying so hard. I had to actually, I remember there were synchronicities that happened. I was inside of the Starbucks and I had to come home just because I was crying so hard. I needed to like bawl literally in my apartment. And, you know, I would never forget that day. You know, there was so much humility that I experienced in those moments, and so much gratitude of like, wow, you know, everything, acceptance of everything as is, you know, it's all part of who we are in this time, that now you know, we're all playing different roles, but you know, we're all experiencing different states of consciousness based on our imprints. But this is all how consciousness is experiencing and expressing itself in different ways, right? You know, I always, one of the things I realize is that I cannot see itself, I guess, and this is how it's able to have those experiences and see, but it doesn't, it's not like us, you know. When you become whole at that level, it's not even the way we think. So it doesn't think of anything as good or bad or separate, you know, it doesn't see things that way. It sees things from that just love, you know, blissful. And that's how, when you're going through this process, when you're experiencing presence, you become very blissful, right? And that's what ignites those blissful states. It's because you know, nothing is separate, and it's funny because it's so easy when you're there and like you get it, you know, it's like, wow, okay, you know. Yet when you, I guess, disconnect, I call it, from that state of consciousness, and you pulled into, you know, depending on your conditioning, your programs, getting there again doesn't seem as easy, right? And the courses that, you know, teachers like Eckhart and Deepak and many other teachers teach, I know for myself, all of my teachings, you know, presence cannot be thought. You know, it's a feeling, okay? And I don't know, I'm an analyst and I can't think of a way of how to teach. It's something that must be felt. And so the purpose of, like, I know my own material, and I'm sure all the other teachers, is to, it's because we've, you know, we're doing this work and we're having all of these experiences in relation to what we know it is to get from here to there. Those material, technically, at least this is the way I've designed mine, is designed to help you get there. so it's like, oh my God, yeah, you're going to be tested. Like I could sit with somebody and go, yeah, you're definitely being tested, or, this is what's happening kind of thing, right? And so we try to bring that wisdom into the material. Same thing with churches, just religion in general, right? To help provide that guidance. But at the end of the day, we're all consciousness here, having these experiences and expressing in different forms. And the best way I've found to heal myself, dissolve those imprints, or evolve them, right? Probably, evolve is probably the better word, is from questioning, asking the question, who am I? Why am I here? So questioning everything that's arising in my day-to-day life, in my reality, like, why was I in the store after meditating and being blissful all day, and suddenly somebody is yelling at somebody else in the store? Why did that, even that I question, oh, why did that happen in my energetic field? Why did I get to witness that? So asking questions, the Buddha said, question everything. And that's my mantra, question everything, because that equips us with the, questions, I call them, they're like portals, right? It equips us with the ability to look deeper within ourselves and come to that understanding of the like, who are we? Why are we here? And that process itself, the work from the head to the heart, right? Head, from the egoic state of mind to the heart, right? The portal, higher consciousness, I call it the spaceship, right? Because it allows us to travel in multiple dimensions, right? And experience multiple dimensions. Questioning allows us the ability to plug into that, our own consciousness, and move, evolve from there. And we can evolve easily if we understand, okay, what are synchronicities? How do these synchronicities come up? What do they look like, and so forth. And so all of these different retreats and courses and stuff, it's really, and even religions, the different churches, it's all, at the end of the day, they're all teaching the same thing, just different ways of teaching it. Because, well, look at how different many of us are because of our conditioning, not because in the higher level we're different, or anybody's better than any person, or somebody has a gift that somebody else has. No, it has nothing to do with that. It's just different ways of teaching the same thing, because there's, I say our minds are geniuses, right? Look at what it can create, and look at how many stories and versions of stories and information it will generate when it wants to keep control, and that happens in the beginning of the journey. Of course, the egoic state of mind wants to keep control. It doesn't know any better, because that's the way it conditioned itself. We helped it, but it did, and you have to show it that trust, continuously, that yes, you have the ability to help it evolve. And then it starts to slowly let go, but not without a fight, and for a long time, but it happens, right? And we come into that state of pure awareness as we evolve. I think that's my 2 cents on it, other than, the darkness and the light. To be really honest, there is no difference. They both have the same goal, and the goal is to evolve. The darkness have an idea of how it wants to be evolved and what evolution is to it, so different form, but the light have its own form. And so, but at the end of the day, there is no, we waste a lot of time fighting, and I guess I'm feeling guided to share that. And we fight, whether it's with ourselves, beating ourselves up, or, with what's going on outside of us, and so forth. And at the end of the day, I always say there is no bad guy sitting out there stopping any of us from doing anything. In fact, the portal has been wide open for the last at least 4 years that I'm aware of, wide open for every single human being on the planet to have the opportunity to be abundant. but we're so busy fighting rather than work on, do what we need to do so that we can be the creators, the alchemists that we're born to be, and then bring that gift to life to serve this new state of consciousness that we're experiencing right now. There's nothing stopping somebody else from creating a course like Eckhart Tolle or, any of the other beautiful beings, right? But there's so many distractions, and, the ego does what it, we train it to do, and it gets pulled into those traps of distractions, and it becomes lost in the noise, I guess, for lack of a better word. That's kind of my 2 cents on presence. It depends on how much we practice.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Phenomenal, Francesca. Thank you for that pointer. Patricia, you want to wrap it up? It's getting late, so.
If you want me to just not say anything, I'll be okay with that.
No, go ahead and wrap it up. What are your thoughts on presence, and why does it require so many retreats and so many videos and so many
doesn't.
books?
It really doesn't. It doesn't. But my thinking is the question that the person asked is really a question of the ego mind. Because if the person was present, that question would not show up. And Eckhart Tolle is making those videos because the present moment, the consciousness is making them through him, trying to reach, I guess, as many people, as many souls that are on the journey as possible. And when I listen to even the same video over and over, every time, it's like I'm listening to it for the first time. So it's that playfulness and creativity and bringing constantly to the present moment, every moment. It's like it's fresh. And that's why it's keep going, because if the consciousness through us is experiencing itself, it needs that body, it needs each one of us to be different and experience it in a different way. And every moment it's new. So that's why human creativity will continue as long as, it's part of that expansion. And Eckhart said that only true creativity happens when we're conscious. Because that's what, our purpose here is to be playful and experience stuff. So he wants to bring as many people to that state as possible. And are we, like, I can ask this question, are you present now? It's that simple. But then, like Francesca said, and Michelle and Ken said, like, there's so many things that's constantly pulling us out. And if we are energy, our energy is connected with every energy around us. So yes, it takes almost an effort in the same time and no effort to be present. So it's like paradoxical almost, but that's why it's fun and it's a continuous thing. And also Ken said, like, we need that practice because it's like brushing your teeth almost like yes, I brushed it once and I'm good for the rest of my life. No. I mean, it's like a hygiene, right, that we do. And the more we do it, the more we like it. It's actually interesting and we're finding out more things about ourselves. And yes, we're learning from other people. It's almost adventure. It's being on the journey of always inquiring stuff, and it's just incredible. So who would want to stop? I mean, like, you don't want to. That is awesome. And even pain becomes something that you learn about yourself and you're on the journey, and it's adventurous. And as far as the second question, I think that, everybody, all the spiritual teachers, I think the ones that I heard about that subject, it's like we all have that sparkle in us. We all have that possibility of being awakened, of being conscious, because everything happened already and it's happening in the same time, like April says, the past, the future, the present moment, so all these realities. So it's really a judgment that, oh, I'm so special because I'm, aware now and present, and these people are egoic and they will just not be awakened this time. It's also a judgment, because I think there was a story that Eckhart said that there was a thief, and if we judge that person as a thief, we label him and we limit ourselves and that person from actually becoming, maybe tomorrow he will be the guru and he will get enlightened and will, so every question is really telling someone about the person that asks the question. It's not really about the answer, I guess. That's what I'm trying to say.
Incredible. Thank you so much. Y'all have been incredibly amazing. We'll end on this.
Thank you, everyone.
Eternally,
I love the
eternally,
answers.
eternally grateful to all of you, Ken, Francesca, Caesar, Patricia, Michelle, and everyone
Are you present
online.
now? Are you present now? Are you present now? Like the
Lakshmi,
little
Sisi,
parrot,
Yes.
remember? Here and now,
attention,
here and now.
attention.
Yeah.
Now. So
Beautiful.
eternally grateful. Thank you so much. Many blessings. Much love. Have a wonderful evening. Bye.
Good night.
Very-